Come, friend, and welcome to the throne room of the Going Rogue Gaming Podcast. I sit before you, newly anointed king of the Grog Pod, who hath just pulled a sword from a stone and therefore rightfully deserve the title of king, Scott Berger. And without that accent, and with my royal court of advisors here,
may I grace your court as the official egghead of the land, Will?
And I, of course, your infamous goblin, perhaps a monster in your monster pit, or a court jester. Take your pick.
Today we are talking Warsim, the Realm of Aslona, released June 28th, 2017 in early access on Steam, and recently just graduated out of early access in December 20th of last year, 2022. You can find this only on PC, on Steam, itch.io, and is coming soon to GOG. I think it's probably a good fit for it. This is a solo game dev effort by Hugh Millard. Wait, hang on. Hugh Millard. Thought there was an extra I in there. Solo game dev from Cardiff out in Wales. Who I would describe as a total lad, but we'll come back to that. Warsim comes in on our data set at the 417th most popular roguelike that we have, with 932 total reviews and up in the 88th percentile. Will,
I think it has over
yes.
900 reviews now. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
I just saw that.
Yeah. So this is because I'm reading from the most recent data poll that I did, which I think was in December. I'm trying to do that data poll operation once every 3 months or so, because it's just annoying enough that I don't know, it takes maybe 6 hours to crawl the Steam API to do it and not get kicked off of their platform. But I think refreshing that data set every 3 months is the proper cadence to let new stuff come in and mature, and not it went from 932 to 935 reviews. That was worth 6 hours of watching my computer overnight. But Will, you have an unruly bandit who's just come into your throne room, and you have to describe to him what this game is about, or pull the trapdoor button. Which one do you pick?
Well, I'm not going to pull the trapdoor. That's a noob trap right there, the trapdoor. But let's see. I would describe this game as it's a text-based adventure betting game, or betting fantasy medieval civilization Kenshi game. You're building a kingdom, and you're making all kinds of decisions at all levels of granularity, down to from a throne room level, like decisions, peasants coming in, making decisions about their lives, to wars at large, mercenary armies, adventuring guilds, exploring the lands, and demon hordes. And it's just all of this chaos kind of brought to order through the lens of 12 options, essentially, on a home screen, which take you through these various things. And over 50 turns, 50 or more turns, you build your kingdom and find your place among the other rulers.
Yeah, I would say this game is very unique. I think this is something that's kind of hard. I was trying to figure out okay, what sort of tags do I apply to this on the grogpod.zone website to kind of make sure I don't put 50 tag descriptors on there. But it is all of that and more. It's kind of insane with it all being wrapped up in a very DOS-like 1991 style text-based menu. But it feels much bigger than that.
I mean, yep, that sounds right to me, Colin.
One large complaint right from the get-go is
starting swinging, coming in swinging, eh?
Well, we were talking about
we're in the arena. Wait, we gotta place our bets. We gotta place our bets in the disagreement arena here. I'm gonna put 2,000 gold on Colin here.
This is a meta complaint, but also possibly my own. So my keyboard doesn't have a numpad.
Mm-hmm.
And
big mistake.
it's
Wow.
like
Yeah.
physically uncomfortable for me to play this game because you have to click 0 and enter many times, and my fingers don't stretch that far very well. And like my hand would get tired from clicking 0 and enter many times. And then also like I have to look at the keys to figure out what number I'm pushing. So playing this game was frustration.
Mhm.
I almost went and dug out my old keyboard, my shitty like $20 keyboard to play this game.
Yeah, that would have saved you a lot of grief. This game is not this. That was, I think, one of the top complaints I saw. I think in just like some of the Steam reviews is like, "Yep, my keyboard doesn't have that." Well, too bad, you know.
Well, that's super interesting because I spent all of my 10-ish hours playing this game all on the Steam Deck, and you would think that this game would be like impossible to play on it. And for the most part, I think like some people were saying like, this game on the Steam Deck, you have to open up like the touch menu UI and like press in the little buttons. But someone had created a like a fan controller scheme, which I think the dev should like set as default for it, where like the left trackpad just becomes like a number wheel, and like that worked really well. Where I was just like, okay, I need to arrange diplomacy. Okay, left trackpad, rotate over to the 4, press, and then hit the A button for enter. And it felt very fluid and natural. I think like the 1 or 2 hours that I spent actually on the PC, I was just using like the numbers on like the top. Like the thought to use the numpad hadn't really ever occurred to me.
Really? That was absolutely paramount for me. I was navigating everything through the numpad. And if you're and this is what I would say to anyone playing on a Steam Deck or other, like if you're not playing this game with it on one half of your screen and a G Sheet or Excel or something on the other half, you're doing it wrong, because you're just guessing. You're just absolutely guessing at what everything does until you start to build a sense of it through gathering some data, looking at some of the variants and all that fun stuff.
What so this game you can generates like a gazillion, what was it, a billion different possible races or something?
I think it's like 98 billion or something crazy.
So what kind of races did you get? Because I feel like perhaps my playthrough was strongly influenced by the race selection here, or the species, or whatever you want to call it.
It shouldn't be, I think. I started 3 games, and so I think I've got a sense, at least some basic sense of the variants that you should expect. And I think that what it usually does is there's probably at least one race that you just can't have diplomacy with out of like, I think it's like 5 races in total, or 4 or 5, something like that. And so one that you can't have diplomacy with because they're too barbaric. And so there's like a certain like subset of dudes that are just like trolls.
So overcome with savagery, right?
Yeah, they're like trolls, or like in this game, there's like always 2 factions, which are goblins. And so those ones are kind of put aside. But there are 4 other independent factions. And I'm pretty sure you're always start at war with 3 of them. And then one of them is neutral. But like their actual composition only really matters in the sense that, yeah, if you get attacked by someone whose average battle score is like 250, you're going to get dunked on because yours is much lower with, and I guess battle score. Before I get into like, I don't want to get too off topic, but we're going to need to cover this anyways. I'll come back to you, Colin. But like, just so folks know, that battle score is like basically everything in this game is based on some sense of battle score. And so
it's just like
all the races,
rating, right?
Yeah. All races have essentially 3 classifications of dudes, which is like a peasant class, a soldier class, and a knight class, which for you as a human is 50, 100, and 150. But when these other races are generated, what happens, as I understand it, is, and I'm not sure if it goes from the top down or from the bottom up, but basically it chooses a random number and it assigns it to that class. But it's not quite random, because like my assumption here is that when it decides that it wants to build a troll, for instance, it just chooses from a higher average value, and it chooses like a number that's kind of higher in general. But then it makes sure there's no overlap, such that like if it's choosing within a range, it's going to make sure that the middle range doesn't go below the first range. But you could have a dude, for instance, I played one game, the second game, where the races generator where was like 13 was the battle strength of their peon, like their little like peasant class. And then the next one was like at like 49, and the last one was like 113. So it was just super easy to crush them. So from that point of view, Colin, I think you probably could be right in the sense that if you're fighting super strong dudes and you're like actually at war with the independent nations, that sucks. But you don't have to be
wait, hold on. I want to get a sense of like how weird this was. So I didn't really fight the nations that intensely, but when it came to the betting in this arena, which is like, as far as I could tell, it is the game. It's just betting in this arena. One of my races was called the Behemoth Lunar Godlings. And they had an average HP in the 7 to 10,000 range. And they did not lose a single fight ever. The only time that they lost a fight was when there was accidentally two of them against each other, and it took like 5 minutes of me holding down the space button for one of them to win.
What difficulty were you playing on?
Like easy mode.
Easy, interesting.
The one above easy mode.
Yeah.
I think I may have accidentally like messed up my race settings, because I was like, I was like, whatever, this game seems like it's about random. I'll do full random, all possibilities. And I think I got one that was just like, you have like a race of gods and they just kill everything. Honestly, it may have only been like 5 dudes that just rotating around through this combat. But basically I was just like, bet on that guy when he comes up.
No, that was broken actually. That's and I'm just looking at like the extras, the section of the menu, it shows what the maximum possible combination of races are, and that's the Behemoth Arch Demigod King comes out with a battle score of 108,000. But even at the lowest, like, and that's at the knight level. At the peasant level, the best is the Behemoth Arch Demigod Guardian, which is 1,500 battle score. And so,
how does battle score relate to?
Battle score it's roughly HP from the analysis I did is roughly 1.3 times battle score. It's not quite like a linear relationship, but it's near that.
Okay, so that sounds like it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, so it's possible, but like it should be unlikely to have.
Yeah,
I think just like the Behemoth and like Arch Demigod, there's some that just are positive modifiers, and I think, what did you say they were? The
Behemoth Lunar Godling.
Oh yeah, Behemoth and then Godly. Yeah, of course, that's like probably right next to the maximum possible one out of the 90 million possible.
I like to think that there's some sort of like anointed like deity from the stars has come to your like fledgling arena to like
he was in a fight
up like all these peasants for fun.
In my fighting pit, not even an arena yet, it was just a fighting pit. There was the Behemoth Lunar Godling King who had like 14,000 HP, and he'd fight like a peasant.
Oh my!
And it was like the peasant had like 57 hit points.
Yeah, that makes betting really easy, I bet.
It does. I did find another fighting pit that in the north that didn't have that, and the betting was a lot more like hard to do.
Like the brawling pit or the scorpion fighting pit.
Yeah, I think it's a brawling pit.
So we've kind of, so I think to answer Colin's question originally about like the races in this game, I think like the random generation in this game comes out with a lot of humor, and I had a lot of fun with the races that were generated for my game, where I had some of the various kingdoms that I have written down here are Council of the Dire Aromancers, who have various skill levels, like Will was talking about, with like their peasant, their dire novice, their dire aromancer, and their dire masters. We have the Foreshadowed Tribe, the Goblin Kingdom of Arak, the Infinite Shogunate, I thought was a pretty cool name. And the creatures from the Infinite Shogunate are soul demi jellyfish that I could only imagine were like those like creatures that you fight in like one part of Elden Ring that are just like the like ethereal jellyfish floating around. And I was just picturing one with like holding a sword in one tentacle and holding a shield in another tentacle, like getting like beat to death by some lowly peasant from my kingdom. I think my favorite one from my playthrough right now is the Kingdom of Barbaric Fungus Shapeshifting Horses, who are also surprisingly weak, who on numerous occasions have lost fights to peasants and have cost me thousands and thousands of gold. And then we have other things like, like your typical bandits or like Savage Clan Implings, Goblin Berserkers, all that good stuff. But
I had the dastardly Salt Centaurs. which are not centaurs made out of salt, but in fact just cowardly and pathetic centaurs that like to rub salt upon themselves. Which I did get a kick out of that.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think that overall I really like about this game, where I know there's a lot of I think there's a lot of procedural generation going on. I think there's a lot of bespoke custom writing going on as well. But I think it's a good sign that I can't tell which is which half the time.
Yeah, no, that especially showed, like, for me, I was like, when I restarted the game, I was expecting new locations, like, for every, but that was one of those things like, oh, it's the same location. So I had no idea that there was going to be that would be, that everything there was bespoke and totally like in depth, made by the creator versus the races, which were all made.
Mm-hmm. So when you mean locations, you're talking about like regions of the world, right? Like things that you go and explore in like the north, east, and south and west of the realm of Aslona, as it were. Because I know that so coming back to what do you do in this game? You start with a tutorial from your old crone who has just sat you down as a newly anointed king, and you can or queen, and you can select like various origin stories. I wound up picking pulled the sword from the stone, and therefore I'm the rightly king option. But I'm guessing you two probably didn't pick that one, because there's a big list that you can choose from, including one that says it's a long story.
I did random, and I was I made a pact with demons so that the old king killed himself, and I became ascended to the throne, and no one likes me.
I think I just did a random one as well, and then like my father was assassinated, and I took the throne.
I got demons every turn.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I was like sworn to a demon, and my goal was to like end the world, I'm pretty sure.
Nice. Yeah, I wondered how like public opinion plays a role, and I'm guessing that like that was the side I didn't explore. Like if you go really negative, like I'm guessing torture becomes good, or like having a really bad rating where you're just absolutely causing evil is good for your kingdom.
Well, I don't know. I didn't play. I don't think I played into that quite enough.
Oh, okay.
I mean, was my first playthrough, so I didn't really understand. I don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah, you don't really the first.
Will, to satisfy your demonic flavor, there's like, I think it's an Easter egg in the game where like at the main menu, if you just type 666, it'll go into like devil mode,
where you torture people. Yeah, I saw that on the subreddit. Yeah, I'm just like someone found the secret thing when they type in the 666, and like yeah, it looks very. There's lots of torture in this game, as I found in the various areas. A specific area filled with vampires, for instance. There's an area where you can just like poke this guy's eyes out, slice his ear off, and like do all kinds of messed up stuff to him. It's great.
I killed them all accidentally.
Which ones?
The southern vampires.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. No, that's I think that's the best option there.
I didn't even know. Like they're just like, want to fight? And I was like, yeah, I'll fight you. And then I killed them all. And then there was just like an empty town.
Well, I'm guessing if you have demons all have like a battle strength of like 666, I think, which is like way above everything else.
I had my army at this point is like 1 million.
What? Oh my god.
You're on easy mode though, right?
I'm on the like second easy mode.
Okay, yeah, that's where I started too. I think that's a good way to go through the game the first time. But then everything gets so easy that it's just like, oh well, you dare do anything, I will just destroy you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like playing on normal mode and trying to be like the good guy of the kingdom is maybe limiting my options a little, where I feel like, so the first thing that you're greeted with as you start this game is that you've recently taken over the realm, the kingdom, and you have to prove that you're a worthy ruler because you have a rebellion on your hands. And or at least this was in my case. Again, like I don't know if this was the case for everyone else.
You always have a rebellion.
Do you? Okay. Yeah, and yeah, so it's like I think there's that kind of pull in the early game of figuring out like, hey, here's how warfare basically works, by starting you off with like, hey, you got to quash this rebellion, otherwise you're not going to be able to rule effectively, which I think is probably a good starting point. But because I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to throw everyone into the prison just yet. I feel like I'm maybe trying to be like too constrained by like your classical like good guy king archetype, and maybe not exploring as many options as I could be by serving the demonic lords or what have you.
Yeah, no, I didn't really have that. In my first playthrough, I was just trying everything and like, hey, yeah, let's see what happens when I pull this trap door and kill a dude. Let's see what happens when I give a peasant no gold, when I give him as much gold as he's asking for, more than that, and like just kind of like doing everything. And that kind of gives you, I think, a good sense, especially early on, of like what is all possible, what sort of reactions to expect from things.
Could you describe for me what you would do on a normal turn year?
Oh, I have that all saved, in fact, in my logs over here. Game 3 turn notes, and it's very detailed. Yeah, this last, you want to hear like what a turn?
I do, because I'm genuinely unsure where the fun is.
Okay, so this is turn 9, and this is on insane difficulty, in which you start with 1 land and you have 50 gold. I think you have some in the bank, but I don't remember how much. And you have like 25 men or something like that. And so, and everyone else has like thousands of men, and you are just like this tiny little dude with no upgrades in your kingdom. And like, it's a rough start, but I think with the optimizations made, it's what allowed me to, by turn 9, the first thing I did was I earned 33.75 thousand in the arena. First thing, you learn early on that you subsidize the arena. As soon as you do that, you unlock an insane amount of gold betting, and then you just never lose at gold betting when you have optimized how to do it. And so
when you have a Google sheet of like all of the battle scores.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, like, there's a chance that you could lose, like, but the chance gets very small if you mitigate that risk through just the right analysis and your right understanding of like what battle scores win at what probability. But anyways, so you in 10 rounds, essentially, all you have to do is win about 3 or 4. And if you don't have enough money early on, you take a loan, because if you take the loan, make the bets, make them right, then you can pay off the loan and you have tons of extra money. But anyway, so you earn money. I explored a little bit to the east. My goal right now is to first hit all the mines and unlock the mines, because that's the highest income, like ROI investment as far as my analysis shows. And then you,
so hang on. What do you mean by hit the mines exactly? Because I've come across a few mines so far, and I've only just really kind of talked to the people who own it. And like,
oh yeah,
are you supposed to like conquer them? Are you supposed to do trade deals with them?
Well, right now, so there's 129 different unique locations. Each of these 129 I have in my document over here with how far, like, essentially there's like 3 or 4 different levels of depth from you. And so I made this, and I for each one of these 129, I get assigned it a level of desirability based on its income it provides or the function it provides and how useful it is to your empire. And then I created the build order essentially that says I need to go here first, then here, then here, and here. And so my build order is essentially like, go to the Montfort mine west is the first thing you see. You could demand tribute early on. It has 350 men. After you're able to take it, you put 500 peasants in there, and then you're earning 4,000 gold per turn.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah, the mines are good.
Yeah, and it's consistent. There's like a lot of them have variation, but these ones are just always the same amount every time. And then like caravans are another thing. It's like you got to hit the caravan, establish a trade route, and that's just easy income. And so like, yeah, there's a whole build order here. And that's what I've been playing at on turn 9. I had a new goblin slaver. This is just a random thing that happened. My old one died. New one came in. He charges only 1 gold for a goblin. Usually they're like 5, 6, 7, 8 more, 12, gold. And so what you do is like, I wanted to lock him in. So I immediately hired an army of guards to protect this guy and keep him permanently safe. And so now I can always get goblins every turn for 1 gold for a goblin. And goblins have the second highest ROI in terms of battle score per gold coin. So I got into this, if you can't tell. And that's why, I mean, as you'll see, I give this game a good rating, because I just, anytime I can crack a G sheet open and figure this stuff out, I love it.
There's a very appropriate like level of Tenchi style, like overwhelming analysis that you can do, I feel like, for like optimization and like how many slaves do I need in order to get my economy running kind of a deal.
Exactly. And that's for me what so much of the satisfying part is. The turn concluded though with one extra thing, which was I hired a mercenary army to I wanted them to take the lands from the rebels. They had 6 lands left and they get 5 attacks. And I found the one that I did analysis of each of them to see the average battle score, the number of units per, and for the cost, so I could
for each of the mercenary companies.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I just hired them. I sent them out. He unfortunately, the one I hired, they kind of randomly decides whether or not they charge for invasion. And so this was costing me an extra 2,100 to do the actual invasion of the land. You can either skirmish, raid, or invade lands. And I wanted to take their land. And so I decided not to raid. Instead, I assimilated them. There's basically a 1/3 probability that when you ask to assimilate them, that they do nothing, that they end the contract, you just lose them. They lose the gold, or they join your army. And if they join your army, you essentially that's the best way to grow your army size in terms of cost effectiveness, because you spend essentially like 6,000 gold on what is like 312 soldiers, which would otherwise cost you about 30,000 gold to like purchase them over the course of many turns, because it's hard to get that many all at once. So that was my turn, and it was highly successful. And now I've got like something like 5,000 units on this insane difficulty by turn 9, 19 lands because of the way I've hired mercenary. It's just, it feels so satisfying to feel like I really, at this point, there's nothing that can stop me. It's insane once you know how to play the game and how to beat it.
Interesting. So okay, your main menu that you have in this game. I think we've talked a lot about arena betting. We've talked a little bit about the bank. This like main menu allows you to like do troop management. Allows you, I think you've kind of touched on hiring mercenary companies there also, but you can hire staff and champions to kind of like help sub-manage elements of your empire. So hiring a spy master that will tell you like, I think that's how you go about assessing enemy or other empires, things like their troop trees, so you can see their battle score, or like their relations with other empires and things like that, which is super interesting. I think for me, with like not quite the scale of Google Sheet optimization strategies, but for me more like, okay, who should I ally with so that I can like push against like an enemy like mutual interest or something like that. One of my royal advisors suggested that. So after I put down the rebellion group, there's still like these bandits that I guess roll around your city, and they're just like gangs that kind of push people around and steal gold here and there. But one of them was suggesting like, we should ally with a couple of them and then have them just infight each other, so we don't have to fight all of them at once. Like that sounds like an interesting strategy. I don't know if that's something that like the game suggested because of the state that I was in, or if that's just something that royal advisor always says. But I was like, like that like ticked a box with me of like being interesting and unique enough that for just like this quote unquote simple looking text-based game felt very deep and rich for what it was. And I feel like that just kind of like touches very briefly on the surface of like the diplomacy menu, for example. I haven't even really gotten into anything like changing the laws of the land is another option you have in your main menu. Kingdom upgrades, like I don't have a library yet, so none of my people could read books.
Overrated.
And I look at the prices of them, and I'm like, God, 25,000 gold. Where am I going to get 25,000 gold from? I think I've been always sitting at like 5,000 to 9,000 gold at all times. I'm just like, okay, I know I could go the FanDuel sponsored gambling addiction route in the arena, but is that like the most fun and best way to play in the early game?
Do you want some numbers? I mean, I can tell you exactly what to expect here. Let me pull up my my income statement. Here it is. So on a per turn basis, it looks like it varies, but the arena makes up about 78 to 85% of my income.
Wow.
And that's across all of the assets that I have. And all these assets are the primo, like in theory, the best assets you could have, at least at this stage of the game. So, which means that like, essentially last turn, I made 33,750 from the arena. And I made, in terms of all of my other assets put together, 9,153. That's all the taxes across 18 lands, all the goblin slaver, the caravans, the pillaging. So the arena, once you that's why Colin, I think, was saying that, like, this is the game, is the arena betting. Like, once you figure that out, it accelerates you towards everything so much faster. And the arena grows like it like very quickly in terms of how much you can start to bet. Like, I wasn't tracking it before turn 7, but it went from max bet of 35,000 to 45,000 to 65,500. I think it might scale with the number of lands you have. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't actually analyzed that quite yet. But if that's the case, then that might be what is driving this increase, because I'm rapidly expanding. But
and you have to, and the only way that you can get income from the arena is to bet. Is that right?
Oh, you can own it too. I mean, I think in my game it's $45,000 to purchase it, and I think it generates about 5,000 to 8,000 in yearly revenues.
Yeah, because like I like the idea of the arena, where you go into the arena menu and it's like, okay, champion lowly, cowardly, fragile Bill is gonna fight Omega Hyper Warlord, Skull Crusher 9,000. And you're like, okay, this seems like a pretty easy bet. 10,000 gold on the Skull Crusher. And then it goes to like a little ASCII menu, or like a little ASCII animation of a little gate opening, which I find kind of fun.
I love that. Yeah.
And then, it goes through like a step-by-step process of like, the lowly crippled peasant tries to swing at the Skull Crusher and trips over his own 2 feet. And then, the Skull Crusher is, stabs him in the heart and, overkills him for 5,000 damage or something. And all that is fine, but you got to do it a lot, right?
In order to 10 arena tournaments and the grand champion tournament, round. So 11 rounds per turn.
And I feel like I've been pretty entertained by it, but I feel like the more that I've been trying to maximize income from the arena, it almost becomes, I don't know, chore-like in a way after a little bit, where it's like, okay, I have a feeling this guy's going to win, big bet on him. And then, like, Colin was saying, spacebar to like roll through the rest of the combat.
Right.
There's an option.
And I know you can turn on the option to make it go through, but then it's just like, what is the game?
So wait, what? There's an option.
I feel like this game is already Dwarf Fortress, read the battle logs, the game. And if you're like, where's the fun come from is my real question for this game. Like, I feel like, Will, you and I have very divergent opinions on this game. I appreciate the scope of it, what it's attempting to do, but I found it boring. Like, I mean, maybe it's because I wasn't doing all the analysis and stuff, but yeah, I was just like, okay, press through. There's no animations. There's just like text of what the people are doing. Okay, all right, they slap each other for a while. You get good at figuring out who's going to win. And like, I mean, I didn't do the G sheet mode, but I could figure out if any of the lesser races were fighting, I'd still bet. I'd still try and figure out who was going to win. And I could get it right most of the time. But even then, it's just like, the scarred, dastardly salt centaur gladiator versus the one-eyed bandit warlord. It's like, then he swung, critical hit, good job, the number went down.
Yeah. Like the crowd interactions too, I thought were a delightful novelty added to that, to be fair. Like, it's not just swinging back and forth, miss, hit. Like, it's sometimes they'll pause and they'll like fart at each other, and then there's a sound effect of that, or like they'll like kind of like taunt each other a little bit, or there'll be a warlock in the audience that shoots one of your dudes for the fireball for like critical hits and kills them, so you lose all your money. Not that that's ever happened to me, but that's certainly I think it adds a little bit of flair, but the novelty does burn away, and it burns away for every single aspect of the monotonous sort of like things. I totally agree. And in fact, the creator agrees as well. This feedback is one that I in a Steam comment or was it a comment, a review, I posted that, and he kind of acknowledged it, and I said, yep, I mean, I get it. This, I think, started for him as a coding exercise that he just kept building on, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is kind of fun. And just so at some point it's just like, oh well, now I didn't have the end in mind, so this mechanic is just really dense, but like you kind of, once you absorb the novelty, I just have to have a way of skipping it. And that's why you hire a steward, for instance, to take care of all your throne room stuff. That's why you skip over lots of the minutia of the game eventually.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, this reminds me, you saying that it started as a coding exercise, like a lot of it makes sense to me. It clicks into place. Like, this feels like I want to like it a lot because it feels like something that I would make for myself. And I think I would have a lot more fun engaging it the way that you have, where I'm like trying to really break down how it works. Or if I were the one programming myself, like I built that whole weird Taurus creature simulator thing. I spent hours and hours and hours making that, and it had nothing. It wasn't a game. It was a weird simulator that I made for myself. I feel like without that, though, like I was trying to treat this like a game,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I think like I'm kind of in the middle between Will's like hyper obsessive number optimization and Colin's kind of bewildering confusement, because like I too, like, I really like this game. I think it's super original. I think it's very funny. It has a very kind of like, neither of you have seen the show Blackadder, have you?
I've seen like clips on YouTube.
Yeah. It's very
British super dry humor.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like the Dwarf Fortress equivalent of Blackadder, which like meshes two things very nicely for me. So I do appreciate a lot of the humor, and like I think the randomness like really works in this game. But like I was getting a little burnt out on arena betting. I was also like, okay, I need to step away from it because otherwise I'm gonna have to like call one of those gambling hotline commercials that I see on NFL games all the time. And I was like, okay, let's go explore the realm. Another option you have in your main menu thing. Let's go explore the realm. Let's see what else is out there. And there's like, Will was saying, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I went to, I think it's like in the west or the north or something. There's this like black market kind of town that you go to that has all of like these little districts in it. I'm like, okay, I want to like explore this world more, like get me more into the theme of like what's happening outside of my like little kingdom and throne room. And it felt very, very interesting to explore more of that stuff. So I went into this black market zone and went and looked at all these kind of like slums and like talk to like people, and they're like all have these kind of different personalities, and each thing that you in this game that you interact with has like a little like ASCII art thing that pops up at the top. I think all of the ASCII art is very well done in this game. It has a very like good sense of like abstractness to it, but also like kind of comic cartoony funness. So I went to the Black Wall to see all of the local heroes that had banished enemies of the past. I went to this one dingy bar place that's run by and I don't know if again, like, is this randomly generated or not? Like, if it is, incredible. If it's not, it's still fun, where you approach the woman known as Mag and quickly notice the worst smell is not the food but her, and so I was like, boy, this food sure looks tasty. And her response was like, shut up, you old crag, or something like that. And I was like, okay, this food looks disgusting. And then her response was like, are you coming home to me? And I was just like, This is perfect. And all of the food there looked disgusting. There were bloody rags and maggots in it and everything. And I'm like, this is great. I found a strange orb that I could buy for 500 gold coins. I don't know what it does. I don't have an artifact hall to put it in. I should go probably build an artifact hall and see what happens. Probably something bad, but maybe something fun. There's a lot of references to demons in this game. Colin, I think like you may have spawned as like basically the final boss, and we're basically like if you had started a game of Oblivion and you were like
No, I wasn't the final boss. I was the final boss's minion.
Okay. Yeah.
I could see him in the mirror. I could go talk to a mirror, and I would talk to like the demon lord and like ask him for more demons, and he'd be like, "How dare you? How dare you ask me for more demons?"
We already spoil everything. There is, in fact, something you might consider a final boss that is within the demon gate to the south.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next thing. Was like there's like these little dotted references of like some people who come to your throne room saying like, "I worship the demon lord, and you should too." And I'm like, "Tell me more." And they're like, "I've seen the future, and he brings a world that will destroy and devour all, and it will be bliss." I'm like, "Okay, guards, kill him." And through my explorations of like the south and the east and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm finding like hints to this Oblivion style demon gate thing that I want to investigate more. So I think like my fun with this game is not so much like the economic optimization part. I kind of like that's kind of like wearing on me a little. If there was a royal advisor that I could just say like, hey, go bet for me, and like, I want you to bet in this kind of style, and I don't want to have to think about it ever again. Like, do that kind of Factorio style optimization and automation for me, and like we're golden. Like, I don't want to have to go and like into each individual empire to like get reports on them. Like, that's what the spy master's for. Do that for me. Maybe it's just like that's missing for like the gold getting aspect, but I think the principal fun for me has been exploring the world, seeing what all there is to offer, and failing the stupid history quiz that they have for the history guild. That was like, here's this like incredibly detailed history of the Northern Lands with like how the Western Empire invaded and how like the thick bloods and the black bloods were, you know, betrayed by the Swift Snow tribes and all these things. I'm like, okay, this is all fun. Skip. Oh, there's a quiz at the end. Let's see how good I do.
Okay, I like that. I didn't.
And I got I think I got an 11 out of 20 on the quiz at the end. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like this. And then the guild master was like, "You came so close to a passing grade, but now I have to take the quiz. I have to go through all the studies all over again if I want to try to get accepted into the history guild." So there's stuff like that. Like, there's stuff that and again, like I'm only like maybe 10 hours into the game. Like, it feels like there's a lot of more stuff than just the arena. But I do remember there was like this funny screenshot posted to Will mentioned the very active subreddit for this game. The developer is, I would say, very, very dedicated in keeping a lot of the life in his game alive. Where there was one screenshot in there that was like, you know, oh, we should arrange diplomacy with this one kingdom or something. And then the advisor saying like, "Oh, well, this is Warsim, ain't it? It ain't Peace Sim."
There's lots of little quibs like that all throughout the game. I mean, it's I mean, as you said, like the writing for each one of these unique experiences is so novel, and I mean, I agree with you completely. Like that's to me what a lot of the draw of it is. I think there is a type of gamer that like where it's the extension of this that wants to read all the lore, all the poetry, all the books and this stuff, and that's not me. And they definitely provide a lot of that in the form of like read all of this history and then take a quiz on it. But that's not me. My goal is to crush my enemies, see them driven before me, and hear the lamentations of their women. So like that was, and to do that in the most optimal way possible. So I skipped a lot of the walls of text and ended up just not engaging with a lot of those kind of quizzes, this quiz, or, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think maybe my experience was the bad synergy of both of yours. I neither engaged with the lamentations of their women nor their walls of text, and instead just wandered aimlessly in the wild north, looking at rocks and then finding the Doomstone and touching it 13 times, as they said I should never do.
You touch the Doomstone 13. It even says if you touch it 13 times, it kills you. And what do? You touch it 13 times. Incredible.
I did.
What if you touched it 14 times?
That did bring
instead?
me some joy. Yeah, I did. I touched it 14 times. You're right. That did bring me some small joy. I was like, well, I guess I got exactly what they said was going to happen. So there we are.
So here's a question. This game is nothing like, nor should it be nothing like, Civ or Stellaris.
Right.
But I feel like
there's a it is in that itch. It's the simulator.
Yeah. So what, Colin, for you, because you're a big fan of Civ, you're a reasonable fan of Stellaris. Like,
I've played Europa Universalis, I've played Crusader Kings.
This game, I think the dev had said like it was very much inspired by like Mountain Blade Warband. He said it was also inspired by another game that I haven't heard of, but I looked it up and looks very like you could see where the inspiration comes from, called King of Dragon Pass.
Yep. I have that. I
okay.
never played it that much, but King of Dragon Pass is another game that feels very similar. It's a text-based decision generator.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think maybe one of the things that's come out of this is that I actually do need graphics. Like the fact that there was not a map deeply made my I needed a map. I needed a map of their kingdoms. I needed to see where it was that I was going. Like I need to see why does this kingdom hate this other kingdom? I need a graph. I need visualizations. I can't go in there and look at just. I found it there was a lot of reading, and I'm willing to do a fair amount of reading, but I need to be pretty darn invested in it to go do that. And so without a map, without graphs or statistics or plot charts or something like that. I mean, so when I made my own basically evolution simulator, which is like my equivalent of this game, half of it was me figuring out how to make cool graphs of it or cool visualizations of it, and like find ways to, because I felt like there's a lot of stuff going on in this game. It's in the same way as like something like Dwarf Fortress, which I feel like is a similar feel, where it's a simulator of a whole universe. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. And I'm trying so hard to bring that out in an efficient way. But it's not, it's mostly like Will just brought it out by manually putting it into a G sheet and calculating it all out. And I maybe want my food to be cut up a little bit more for me. I want you to I want my hot dog. I don't want to have to go hunt it first.
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with the map idea. I think that like the ASCII art in this game is great. And I think if there was like, because when you go and explore the Northern Lands, it looks like it's filling out a little map for you.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this is great. Like I can then see like where everything is kind of located relative to everything else. I think there's been some stuff posted in the Warsim subreddit of like, here's this like handcrafted, like very artistically beautiful map that they made of their world. Like, that's great. Give me like a goofy looking ASCII version of that. Like I would love that. That would be amazing. And the other thing that I would really want is some kind of like very hand-holdy, like noob level throne room advisor that's like, here's what you should be doing next. Because I know like this game's very open-ended and very open worlded, but like, is there like an end goal that I should be going towards, or should I just be betting on snail races the whole time? Like, is that the end goal of the game? Like maybe it is for some people, but
wait, where'd you get snail races?
There is a town in, I forget, I think it's like in the west somewhere, that one of like the little things that you can do there, like that's where you find the snail races.
It's
like
in Rim Village. That's a depth 1 in the Farid desert to the east.
You make good money betting on snails
right here. No, the only betting you should do is the arena. All the brawl, all the other pits and everything. Like the names don't make it obvious enough to know which to bet on. At least in my quick view of things. But I do want to address the map complaint here because I think you're completely wrong. The map, a map wouldn't really make sense here because of the way like it's designed in such a way that when you're exploring, you're going, in the 4 cardinal directions, and you just go out 10, and then like you go out 10 more, and like you're basically going up and down one grid, like up to in the case of the West, like 40 grids away, and you're able to go from the furthest west to the furthest east, south. Like you can jump around in one turn to every single explored area. And so like, what would the map do for you? Like none of that, like being a certain distance away from other things doesn't really make any sense. Like distance in this game is really just, it's not an actual unit of measure. It's a unit of exploration that you have left to do. So beating the game, in my view, is exploring everywhere. And maybe like beating all of the rebels, bandits, and goblins, and like maybe the other independent tribes if you want to, but like once you've done that, you're pretty much in a dominant, like unshakable position.
Yeah. I have this idea in my head of I want to see like a little ASCII map of like if there's procedural generation with where the locations are placed, like I want to see like, oh, I've discovered this volcano. That's cool. Put like the little volcano next to like the little dusty town next to it. Like just something that I can like visually wrap my head around of like, okay, like this is what this world looks like. I'm less concerned that like, oh, the mountain is like, 40 miles southwest of, where the Ice Lord's tower is. And that, oh, it's unrealistic that I'd be able to get to both of them in the same day. I'm fine with like magical teleportation because of all the zaniness in this game. I'm more just like, I want something that I can like print out and hang up on my wall. Be like, this was my adventure that I spent like 100 hours in. I remember when like that volcano exploded and flooded everywhere with lava. I don't know if that's an actual event, but maybe. Or like if demons come out of the demon gate, like being able to see like that stuff on the map. And like from the 10th, like, if you're a royal king, like you have a map somewhere, right? You got like one of those big Game of Thrones map rooms that you're walking around.
Yeah, I'm scrabbling to find something to attach onto, like to make the world more real to me. Will made it real through a deep analysis. Scott made it real through actually reading some of the text. And I need a map. I need a map. I need a picture. I need a graph of something. I felt like I never really got invested in it. And if you're not invested in it, it's a lot of clicking buttons. It's like, imagine if I like you're clicking enter in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's a random number times 0.6, and you're betting against yourself on if it's going to be greater or less than 0.5 or something like that. It's like the fact that it's procedurally generated, or even the fact that it's a video game. I mean, I had the same kind of thing in Elden Ring, where I'm like, okay, I'm grinding to get better than what? A non-existent entity. Like, it doesn't matter that I'm better than knight number 5. Like cool, I get better than that. But like the fact that in this game, the fact that I knew that all of these things were procedurally generated, and like the betting, if I wasn't invested in the world, like there was too much. There's too much for me to follow. And I feel like I get that in Dwarf Fortress too sometimes, where it's like I'm trying to follow the combat logs and I just can't do it. There's too much going on. I can't make sense of it. And I need a visualization. I need a graph. I need a play-by-play that shows what's going on in this fight. That's not just a block of text.
isn't that what generates the motivation though? I mean, like, I don't know. That was my experience. I got into this game. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like, okay, I got this log. This is how much damage this did. Okay. This is how much money I got from, okay, I don't like, and I just was full of wonder about like what caused that. How do I affect it? Like, and then like, what are the tools I have available to me to understand these things? And so I, of course, went right to my G sheet. And I'm like, well, I need to start like figuring it out through, documenting, like, in this case, the arena seems obviously like the biggest source of income. So the arena occupies most of the analysis.
Doesn't make any sense. Where's the gold come from? Where's the pit owner getting all that gold from?
Well,
the central bank, right?
Patrons. Yeah, it tells you how many patrons visit each of the things every
You're
year.
wringing them dry every time. Does it make economic sense?
I really am. It doesn't make sense that he'd want to do bets with me if I'm just like winning them all.
We closed down the pit.
He should be like, I'm sorry, Will, you're too good at betting. We can't allow you to bet here. That's really what he should have done.
It actually is a serious complaint, though. The fact that the arena betting is such a large component of your income.
Absolutely. Well,
doesn't make sense to me.
The creator wants you to not be that good, I think. I think the creator expects somewhere like in between all of us where like, you're supposed to just kind of get it right sometimes. Oh, you're supposed to lose all your gold once or twice and realize, oh, I shouldn't do that. And then kind of be more conservative, but you're like supposed to make some money, but like not a lot, essentially, I think is kind of what. But if you're optimizing it, like you're not supposed to be making like 37,000 like in gold. You're not supposed to be making 85% of your income through the arena. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you think the arena owner would be like, man, this guy keeps winning a lot of bets here. Maybe we should cut you off for the evening or something.
Well, they do.
Or
They
dial back
off
the multiplier even.
Right. Or like, just like instead of, paying 1.5 times, like you just, hey, we're going to pay you 1.1 times when you win. Cause it looks like you win. Something like that.
So, okay. So like, I'm on like the flip side for your guys' passion for like, for Kenshi, I guess. Like Kenshi to me feels like the closest 3D analog to this game. And for the life of me, like I'm like kind of in the Colin camp on that game of like, okay, like what do I do here? But like I know you two are both much more into that game than I am. So what's like the principal draw in Kenshi, which is a very open world, not quite as kingdom-y management sort of a game, but similar in the aspect of like, you're like building up your kingdom equivalent with respect to all these other factions that are going on. Like, is there something that like is missing from Warsim that exists in those other kinds of games that would benefit here? Other than a map.
I mean, I think that the similar like the core appeal is how do you break the game and figuring out these both games in my view are puzzle games where it's like you want to understand the economy or like some form of like what makes your dudes able to crush anything. How do you get to this status and what's the fastest way to get there? So in Kenshi, answering that question, like, well, first you have to understand what the different factions do. You have to understand how the economy works. Like, what do you need to produce? How many dudes do you need in your squad? How do you optimize a collection of dudes? Like, there's all these questions, and how do you solve these questions? Like, solving that stuff is what creates the passion for me. And so I know I had lots of spreadsheets for that game too. And like looking at all the different lands and looking at all the very specific, what's the agriculture here? What's the water? What's the acid level? What's the level of the dudes in the area? Because you can only level up when you're fighting dudes. They're more powerful, but you don't want to be too powerful. And so it's like, wow, how do you manage all that stuff?
So Kenshi, the thing about Kenshi is that it does not have procedural generation at all. It is a deeply bespoke world that you can get very invested in the specifics of the lore and stuff like that.
It is very what's the word I'm looking for? Like the stuff happens organically, even though it's not procedurally generated, but there's like things
emergent,
that pop up. Yeah,
gameplay.
It's very emergent though.
Yes, it is. And I can see like, so for like, they both have kind of do your own goals type of stuff, but for something like Kenshi, you can choose your mission of like, I really want to destroy the Holy Empire or whatever. And then I felt like there was a very clear goal that I was striving towards the majority of the time that I was playing with Kenshi. It's either get stronger so you're not beaten up by the dust bandits, or then eventually like beat the Holy Empire or whatever.
It's like max the tech tree out, I think, is kind of like the like what goes along with pretty much every style of play, except for unless you want to be completely nomadic. Pretty much like you always want to like work on the tech.
Yeah, and then build a base.
Yeah, which kind of like that's you're either a base builder or you're a nomadic sort of like bandit or a bounty hunter, and that's kind of like the two major ways to play the game, I think.
Yeah, I think honestly, I feel weird and shallow saying that the difference is just that it has graphics. Like, I don't like to think of myself as the kind of person who's like, I only like games that have pictures.
Well, so a potential stay tuned episode, Armored Commander 2, very ASCII driven, but also very visually driven, in that there's like a big like campaign battle map. You can see advancements of enemy front lines and stuff, like graphical to some degree, but also very ASCII in that same regard. Where I think like, yeah, like, graphics aren't the be all end all, but the flip side of that is like, yeah, you do need some kind of and like there is a good visual element in here with like the different like pictures of the people's heads that show up, or like little like cute little like ASCII boats and things, and like here's what the artifact looks like and stuff.
The art that it did have, I thought was very good. Like, I mean, good is in a very relative term. Like, it was
good for what it's going for.
It was like very interesting, visually interesting ASCII art.
Yeah.
But it did not convey. It conveyed story information, but not global understanding information. Mostly, I just didn't understand what I was doing, what I was striving for, where I was trying to. I didn't feel like I had a real goal.
I mean, wasn't exploring the entire like map like. Or like I went north and only north. I made the mistake when I first I want to see how far north I can go. Like that was my goal, and I just went in that direction, and I just kept going and going. And I think that's a very like that was the goal that kept me drew me into the game initially.
Now I got to the Doomstone, and I was like, that's far enough north.
That's pretty far. Yeah, that's
it's square 19 on the second one.
Right.
So
I mean, the north is only three.
It's only 3, so
I don't want to go on a huge tangent. I'm just excited for the future though, where this kind of game, if we can just imagine the not too distant future, we're plugging a chat GPT style of thing into the creation of like the story and like all the dialogue. But then you have like the extra layer that doesn't exist quite yet, which is like creating the betting mechanics, creating like these mini games essentially, and like all the behind the scenes in the depth behind each of these locations, and like really varying the degree of depth on these locations too. Like some are just barren, some of them are like varied, but like that could all be created by some AI in the not too distant future. And I think that'll be very cool. Just like boom, just create games, have people play them, and the best of them just rise to the top of like, oh, this is the cool new Warsim like game that is AI generated.
I think you're half right in that. I think like everything procedurally generated and programmed here is great for what it is. Maybe there needs to be, and maybe there is, but I just haven't encountered it yet, like more of that emergent interaction between like, oh, like if I like bet a ton on the snail races, like how does that impact my relations with, or like my interactions with things in the throne room or other factions? But like to Colin's point, I think I would almost prefer the flip side of that, where like the game is programmed and written how it is, but using like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion to like AI generate the art of like the stuff that it's describing. Because there's lots of like, tell me more about this ice wizard. What does he look like? Like, show me a battlescape of like this invasion of the Northlands. Like, that sounds kind of cool. I want to see what that looks like. And even if it is like some like goofy looking ASCII thing, like, cool.
Or like if you had something where on the back end, it was plugging the stuff into Midjourney, it was plugging in the ASCII art and then like weird set key phrases and just like, here's a generated image of this dude.
Mm-hmm.
Would it work? I don't know. Not today, but in the future, maybe.
Are we thinking maybe we should?
Yeah. Which rank? I'll start off. I'll start off with the rankings. Well, and not because it kind of leads in from the. I want to like this game. because it deeply intersects with my interests of simulation and building an emergent game, and like the I'm having a hard time even explaining like what I want out of it, but for whatever reason, I didn't find it very interesting, and it makes me sad. And I don't think that means other people wouldn't find it interesting. And obviously some of you did. Well, I feel like this is going to be a polarizing game for us, but I would imagine it'd be a very polarizing game if you gave it to a random subset of people. There'd be some people who really like it, and a lot of people who just bounce off as like, I don't understand what I'm doing here. So like for me, I put it as my number 10 out of 15 game. It's below Dungeons of Dreadmore.
Lord.
It's
hey,
like,
Dungeons of Dreadmore, I think is still pretty. I'll go to bat for Dreadmore.
It's okay. So for me, it's above A Valley Without Wind. So it is.
Okay, well, I guess that's where, I mean, it needs to be above that game, but
so I'm going to say that right now it is the threshold. It is now the lowest end of the threshold of games that I'm like, this wasn't an objectively bad game. Like
you wouldn't
below
recommend
that,
it,
like I would recommend it to very specific people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be willing to watch it, and I want more games like it to exist. Which I feel like it's a weird contradiction. It's like, I didn't like it, but I want more games like it to exist. I feel like that's kind of how I feel about Dwarf Fortress, where I'm like, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I want more of it. I want simulation. I just
you want the Rim World that came later.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like the idea of it. I just didn't really enjoy playing it.
Scott?
Yeah, I'll go next. I really like this game. I think it's very unique in that I never really played a lot of DOS games growing up, but I feel like this is what would be like the pinnacle of like early 90s DOS games would be. And yeah, like it's rough around the edges, you know, I think like it's hard for games that are developed by just one person to really have every element like fully polished to like a AAA level. But my expectations for this were like some kind of interesting universe to explore. I think the humor in writing was like a neat surprise. Like I didn't expect it to be like as funny and like, you know, I mentioned earlier, very Blackaddery as it was. That kind of very dry, like British style humor, I really like a lot. But yeah, I think like the aspect of like early game, like, okay, you put down the rebellion, great. Like that's a very clear goal to have. Now what do I do? Like it kind of seems a little overwhelming. If there was an advisor to say like, well, do you want to focus on like exploration? Do you want to focus on economics? Do you want to focus on diplomacy? Here's kind of like your very like noob friendly options. Like I'd like to focus on exploration, please. What can I do to make my kingdom better at doing that? Like send like, oh, here's how you send knights out on quests and stuff. And okay, great. Like handhold me through like the first game and then like allow me to take the training wheels off for insane mode for like that uber challenge of like, oh, now I've got to go and fight, you know, the super civ on the other side of the continent kind of a deal. But yeah, overall, I really like it. I think the ASCII art is super good. I've been taking like copious screenshots of like all these goofy encounters that I have. And there's like on the like I'll mention the Warsim subreddit once again. Like there's a like a couple lists that the developer put on there of like, here's 101 things to do in the game, and he put out another like 101 like goofy things, and some of them are like view the corpse sculpture in the Thundil Tavern, watch a monster fight in Bayaya, listen to a Thundil vampire bard, torture someone in Bayaya's torture chamber, listen to a procedurally generated gnome whistler, like or enter the demonic realm. These are all like this is like perfect for me. I don't know that I can sit and play this game for like longer than 30 minutes at a time, because it does it's almost kind of like reading a book to some degree. It doesn't like require
You
that
redo it
kind
for
of
like 8 hours in a row, just one book straight through.
Well, I mean, I'm a pretty slow reader too. Like I'm not one of those freaks who can just like look at the words and then like process them later. Like I have a little voice in my head that's like enter the demonic realm one word at a time. But yeah, I think this game is very fun. I'm glad that we picked it out. This for me, I was waffling of like, do I like this game better than Binding of Isaac? And I think no, because I think Binding of Isaac kept me engaged more. Like I could sit and like play Binding of Isaac for a solid 8 hours straight, no problem. We did just play Fights in Tight Spaces. I feel like this kind of splits the difference between the two for me as my number 4 game out of the 15 that we've ranked, in that it's very unique. I like all the art style and goofiness about it. I just wish there were like better hand-holding options or a more clear call to action for like, okay, you put down the rebellion, now what? Like, have I beaten the game? Like, what else is there to do? I get that there's like a lot of stuff and I'm excited to explore it, but like, give me a hint or two of as to where should I go next.
Reasonable. Incorrect, of course, because this is the best game that we played so far to date. Out of the 15 games, this is my number 1 spot. I give this game an 8.5 out of 10. Of course, I Kenshi, as mentioned earlier, that's one of my my 5 10 out of 10 games of all time. And so yeah, this game for an ASCII art text-based game, I was so surprised and delighted that that we played this. In fact, that I'm going to continue to play this probably for another like 5-10 hours. I think at some point the novelty will be completely sapped out of it, and I think that once you do explore everywhere, you can't try every option, right? Because once you destroy a place, like you can't do the options that you didn't choose. But like, I kind of get the sense of how everything goes now. But like in getting that initial novelty, it's just so delightful. And I think just like as you're talking there, like what you reminded me of is like when I went to, there's some caverns where you find some gnomes essentially, and they have like a gnome insulting challenge that they have, and so all the other battlers, the scorpion battle or the brawler battles, like all these little betting games, there's probably like 10 or 15 20 different betting games in there. This is one where they're just 2 gnomes and they have like their self-respect as like the something like that as like their like HP, and then like they insult each other, and then when they get insulted, their HP, their self-respect goes down, and then they eventually run off crying, and that's them losing. And I'm just like, that is great. You talk to the owner of the caverns, and you say, hey, why aren't you betting on this? And he's like, what's betting? And so you introduce the concept of betting to the civilization. You come back later, and suddenly this guy's rich. He's got golden idols to himself. He's just like, yeah, thanks for telling me about betting. I'm a rich now, and here's some money. Thanks for doing that for. And it's just like that sort of thing where it's just everywhere as a surprise and delight. In addition to all the optimization, in addition to the puzzle solving of the betting, of the diplomacy. Oh my gosh, like there's lots of depth in that too. But I could ramble on and on and on about what's the best way of doing everything, as you've seen here, and I probably get it wrong too, because there's some aspects of the game that I haven't seen yet. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for me. And I don't know. I don't think there's much that I can criticize here other than like the things I've already brought up, that at some point things get monotonous, and the best games don't allow for monotony to work into the games. They evolve. So like the paperclip game is a perfect simulation game, in the sense that everything you're doing is scales up, and as something is about to get old, you've done it enough times, it morphs into a different mechanic, and that's new, and the novelty is refreshed. And so that's something that this game could have utilized a little bit, but I don't know how you would have done that without keeping kind of the end and the progression in mind from the very beginning, because that's something I don't know how it would have been accomplished. I think it's as good as it can be for what it is.
All right. Email if you want to write into the show, grogpodzone@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Mastodon, we're grogpod@gamedev.place, and we have our fancy website, grogpod.zone, where you can find all of our rankings. You find a Google sheet of where we're getting all this data from. I should probably refresh it at some point, but I'll probably wait till March or so to do that. Colin, can you give us a little preview for what game you've selected for us to cover next?
Oh, you've been waiting for it. It almost came up before. We're going to be doing Cogmind.
Yay!
Finally, my actual introduction to like a true roguelike. I think this is going to be the roguiest roguelike that we've done in quite some time. Mm-hmm. And I know Scott and I have both played it before and both very much enjoyed it. And Will has played it and didn't enjoy it, but maybe he'll enjoy it this time around.
Right? Yeah,
like new
I'm
perspective.
Curious.
And he should like it because it's a great game.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next time for attaching some thermonuclear rocket boosters to our body and flying past all sorts of robots hellbent on killing us.
Thanks for listening.